some votes in Georgia. They just weren't the ones he was looking for. You know, it's not every day that the former president of the United States gets charged with multiple felonies. Or no, I guess at this point it is. Every day, it seems like. But a Georgia grand jury indicted former President Donald Trump, charging him with felony racketeering and several conspiracy charges as part of a sweeping investigation into his attempts to overturn the 2020 election. The 41-count indictment also names 18 additional defendants, including legal luminaries like Sidney Powell, Jenna Ellis, John Eastman, Kenneth Chesebro, and Jeffrey Clark. Also among the indicted is Rudy Giuliani, who himself pioneered the use of RICO charges to go after the mob back when he was U.S. attorney. This thing is incredibly ironic.
Well, well, well. How the turntables.
So let's break down the Georgia indictment. And as a reminder, the indictment contains unproven allegations. Just because the grand jury voted to indict, all that means is that they believe that there was probable cause that a crime may have been committed. That is a far cry from the standard of beyond a reasonable doubt that the prosecutors will need to prove at trial. But the Fulton County indictment echoes the DC indictment by starting with the premise that, quote, Trump and the other defendants charged in this indictment refused to accept that Trump lost, and they knowingly and willfully joined a conspiracy to unlawfully change the outcome of the election in favor of Trump. Trump and 18 alleged co-conspirators have been accused of 41 different counts. Now, not all of the co-defendants are accused of having committed the same crimes. Trump himself has been accused of 13 of the 41 counts. More on that later. Count 1 is for violating the Georgia RICO statute. Basically, the way that this indictment is written is that the co-defendants engaged in several different general schemes in perpetration of 40 different counts, each of which functions as a predicate for count number 1, RICO. But let's start with the predicate offenses that Trump is charged with committing. A predicate offense is a type of crime that is related to another crime. In this case, the big crime is racketeering in violation of Georgia's RICO statute, and to violate RICO, a person must engage in a pattern of racketeering activity. Now, not every crime can be a predicate crime for Georgia RICO, and the law lists 43 specific crimes that can qualify under the law that can be used as a predicate act. But many potentially apply here. False statements in writings, impersonating a public officer, forgery, filing false documents, influencing witnesses, computer theft, computer trespass, computer invasion of privacy, and conspiracy to defraud the state, and acts of theft and perjury. And in the indictment, prosecutors listed 161 acts that they say prove that a violation of the RICO Act occurred. Among the acts include things like accessing Dominion voting machines and influencing witnesses. Not all the acts are crimes on their own, and the indictment cites several Trump tweets, for example. And when asked whether a tweet can be a crime, Will has said that the tweets are, quote,
alleged to be acts taken in furtherance of the conspiracy. Many occurred in Georgia, and some occurred in other jurisdictions and are included because the grand jury believes they were part of the illegal effort to overturn the results of Georgia's 2020.
And you just know that every single chud that has a computer or a phone is going to tweet out some stupid shit like, oh, so it's illegal to tweet now? Oh, so you're telling me it's illegal to hang out with people and tell people where to go. Wow, so much for free speech in this country. So much for free speech. Gift Smooth, thank you for the 4 months. And Dr. Shrayway, thank you for the gift sub. Thank you.
Presidential election.
Now, this is very similar to the rules regarding normal garden variety conspiracies, which we covered in the context of the DC indictment. Crimes are often made up of smaller, non-criminal acts. Buying a gun is legal. Buying a gun as part of a criminal conspiracy to rob a bank is illegal. Telling lies is legal. Telling a lie as part of a conspiracy to defraud someone is illegal. But that's how you get really dumb legal takes like this tweet. Things that are apparently illegal in America. Tweeting that you're watching TV, reserving rooms for meetings, asking someone for a phone number. Which is not only a dumb legal take, it was actually stolen from somebody else. But at least it gave rise to one of the greatest tweets from Internet Hippo. New right-wing thing is describing crimes as generically as possible to pretend like they're not crimes. Someone gets convicted of conspiracy and they start yelling, wow, so it's illegal to make plans with friends now.
Yeah.
But as both crimes on their own and as predicates for RICO, the indictment alleges several different schemes. There are some similarities with the various schemes with the DC indictment, but there are also differences. The first is the fake electors plot. The indictment alleges that co-defendant Mike Roman, who worked for the Trump 2020 campaign as director of Election Day operations, helped organize slates of phony Trump electors purporting to represent the electoral votes from battleground states, including Georgia. On November 30th, 2020, Roman instructed an unindicted co-conspirator to, quote, coordinate with the individuals associated with the Trump campaign to contact state legislators in Georgia and elsewhere on behalf of Donald Trump and to encourage them to unlawfully appoint presidential electors from their respective states. This allegation shows that the effort to send false certificates to NARA and Congress was highly coordinated by people connected to Trump. On December 3rd, 2020, Giuliani, Ellis, Stallings, and Eastman met with members of the Georgia Senate who were present at a Senate Judiciary Subcommittee meeting and solicited them to violate their oaths of office by unlawfully appointing presidential electors from Georgia. During the hearing, Giuliani made 2 false representations that at least 96,600 mail-in ballots were counted in the November 3rd, 2020 presidential election in Georgia, despite there being no record of those ballots having been returned to a county elections office, and that Dominion voting systems equipment used in the November 3rd, 2020 presidential election in Antrim County, Michigan, mistakenly recorded 6,000 votes for Joseph R. Biden when the votes were actually cast for Donald John Trump. During the hearing, defendant Ray Smith, an Atlanta lawyer, made 6 misrepresentations about election fraud, such as claims that 66,248 underage people illegally registered to vote before their 17th birthday. While Trump was tweeting, Ken Cheesebro was organizing the fake electors in battleground states. On or about the 11th day of December 2020, he sent an email with attached documents to Mike Roman. The documents were to be used by Trump presidential elector nominees in Georgia for the purpose of casting electoral votes for Trump, despite the fact that Trump lost Georgia. Defendant James Schaefer, who was then the chairman of the Georgia Republican Party, oversaw a December 2020 meeting at the state capitol of 16 GOP electors who signed documents falsely claiming Trump won. Schaefer and several other defendants created a document entitled Certificate of the Votes of the 2020 Electors.
Dude, this is crazy, by the way. This is absolutely insane. Committed the felony. So all of these individuals committed the felony offense of false statements in writing in Fulton County, Georgia, by knowingly, willfully, and unlawfully making and using a false document titled Certificate of the Votes of the 2020 Electors from Georgia, with knowledge that said that the document contained the false statement we undersigned being the, okay, and then basically appointing Trump. That's insane. That's crazy. They just make up fake documents. How fucking stupid do you have to be? That's like rule number 1. You never, ever, ever forge documents. It's the worst decision on the planet.
From Georgia, with knowledge that said document contained the false statement, we, the undersigned, being the duly elected and qualified electors for president and vice president of the United States of America from the state of Georgia, do hereby certify the following. Trump and his co-defendants included the fake certificate in a legal filing. And then there was the attempt to call a special legislative session. On December 5th, 2020, Trump called Governor Brian Kemp and allegedly solicited, requested, and importuned Kemp to call a special session of the Georgia General Assembly. Oh, so like we're not supposed to importune people anymore.
Unbelievable. You can't even ask to hang out with people anymore. It's crazy. It's crazy. Yosarian, thank you so much for the 31 months. Thank you. So he committed a crime and he handed it to the court himself? Just about, yeah. Yeah.
I thought this was America. Huh? Isn't this America? I'm sorry, I thought this was America.
But on December 6, 2020, Trump tweeted, "Gee, what a surprise. Has anyone informed the so-called says he has no power to do anything Governor Brian Kemp and his puppet Lieutenant Governor Jeff Duncan that they could easily solve this mess and win? Signature verification and call a special session. So easy." On December 7th, Trump called Speaker of the Georgia House of Representatives, David Ralston, and asked him to convene a special session of the legislature for the purpose of unlawfully appointing presidential electors in Georgia. The prosecutors alleged that Trump was trying to coerce Ralston, Kemp, and Miller into committing a felony.
And yeah, seriously though, if a few things had panned out slightly differently, it might have worked. I mean, in 2000, they literally tantrumed their way into George W. Bush getting declared winner before the votes were fully counted. And we know Dems are too weak to actually do anything about it. It's not that they're too weak to do anything about it. It's that they don't give a fuck. Right? But yeah, no, it's literally, it just took a couple people not wanting to go to jail. And that was it. That was it. Because, like, I'm not going to claim that, like, like Brian Kemp is, like, a good person or any of this shit. Like, I'm not going to claim that. Why did one of my cats meow? I don't know why they meowed. But what was I saying? Right. None of the people that are involved in this story are good people necessarily. However, you have to recognize that people don't want to go to jail. Especially judges. Like, judges know the law very well. Anyone who's gone through the effort of becoming a lawyer or then becoming a judge, they know how big of a crime it is to, like, forge documents and how to lie and how bad it is to commit perjury. They were like I have no doubt in my mind that if they could find the extra votes to put Trump in power, they would have done it. But they were just like, I'm not going to jail for you. I'm sorry, man. Nah, I'm good. This many people willingly throwing their lives away for Donald Trump still blows my mind. Yeah.
Then there was the New Year's Eve lawsuit. Trump's campaign filed several legal challenges in Georgia seeking to throw out ballots or overturn the results. The indictment says that the New Year's Eve lawsuit, which was filed by John Eastman, included statements about mass fraud that Trump knew were false. The statements included the suggestion that dead people, underage people, felons, unregistered voters, and people with P.O. boxes illegally cast votes. The lawsuit demanded that Kemp and Raffensperger decertify the election results, and Trump signed a document verifying that the facts of the complaint were true to the best of his knowledge. Then there was, of course, the perfect phone call. On January 2nd, 2021, 44 days after Biden was declared the victor in Georgia, Trump called Brad Raffensperger and said, quote,
I just want to find 11,780 votes, which is one more than we have, because we won the state.
And flipping the state is a great testament to the country. I only need 11,000 votes. The indictment says that during the call, Trump made 13 false assertions about election fraud in Georgia. He told Raffensperger that, quote,
the ballots are corrupt, and you're going to find that they are, which is totally illegal. It's more illegal for you than it is for them, because you know what they did and you're not reporting it. That's a criminal.
It was a perfect phone call. It was a perfect phone call, and they indicted me anyways.
That's a criminal offense. And you can't let that happen. That's a big risk to you and to Ryan, your lawyer. That's a big risk.
Raffensperger's lawyer, Ryan Germany, told Trump that Raffensperger didn't have the legal authority to conduct another recount, but Trump applied pressure, quote,
Brad, what are we going to do? We won the election, and it's not fair to take it away from us like this. And it's going to be very costly in many ways.
Trump followed up his call by threatening Raffensperger on social media.
Like, to be clear, I don't think Raffensperger is like maybe a good guy, right? Like, most of these people are kind of piece of shit. However, nobody wants to go to jail, man. And nobody wants to go to jail for someone else.
According to the indictment, Trump's scheme to overturn the election continued at least until September 7th.
What is this?
Hello?
On the dark.